Patrick, on Sunday, using pronouns.
I'm Rashad, I'm first year ambassador.
My name is Reese, I'm an FYI as well, and I'm Ethan.
My name is Nick, I'm a senator. Appreciate her comment.
Candace Martinez Stone, Assistant Director for Leadership and Governance. My apologies for being tardy. She, her pronouns. Lily Peppinger, I am the Speaker of the Senate, and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Brenda, I'm the Executive Vice President. I also use she, her pronouns.
I'm Colin, I'm the President of SGA, and I use he, him pronouns.
I'm Derek, and I'm a senator.
Hello, I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Yasmin. I'm a Senator. She, her pronouns.
I'm Hope. I am representing SCD. She, her pronouns.
I'm Boy. I'm an FYI. She, her pronouns.
My name is Brandon. I'm the Assistant Speaker of the Senate, and I use he, him pronouns.
Oh, I'm Ty. I'm Senator. He, him pronouns.
Hi, I'm Genevieve. I'm from the Retriever, and she, her pronouns.
Thank you all.
Oh, that's not okay. Thank you.
Y'all are great. All right, before we get into business, guess what? Robbie can't make it due to family emergency. He wants to take minutes. Thank you. Appreciate you. Okay, so agenda. Do you have comments on that? Oh, okay. Oh, Brandon has comments on the minutes. Are they already in here, Brandon?
They're not checked off yet.
That was me. Okay. So adding each update.
These are like clarifications, so that it makes sense. One of them was that for the $2,000, I changed that from weeks to Senate, because I know there's confusion that some people think every senator has $2,000. So I think that would change.
Should we do it? Okay. So is everybody okay just accepting these updates for clarification?
Yeah.
Okay, 100%. All right, thanks for thoroughly reading. Really? Wow, you even capitalized? So you doing it wrong? Okay.
I was confused at what the amendments were, so I added them after looking. So we have to like move to amend a shady if they don't talk about what the amendments are.
Got it. Oh, y'all, Brandon, you're doing the work. Wow. Okay. I think that's it. Yeah. Great. So, with the minutes as is, with Brandon's suggestions, so unanimous in the past minutes. Yeah. Beautiful. So, I
I brought up earlier for the shared purpose.
Was that a motion?
It was.
Yes. Yes.
Point of clarification. SR or SL? As if we're allocating money, doesn't need to be an SL.
Should do. Well, we can change that. Okay, I want to do that at the beginning of the meeting, and then we'll, is it in the legislation folder?
Should be.
Okay.
Chiefs.
26.
Well, no.
No, it's not. What did you number it?
SL 27-1819.
She's not here.
She's not in there. So it was,
I can take the one share with me and send it to you as well.
27.
what is the formal title?
SR 27-1819, road signage funds. It should be shared with you.
Is it in the folder?
That's not in the folder.
Yeah.
Put it in the folder.
Well, what I want.
You want me to change it from S?
SL.
Amend it from SR to SL.
Yeah,
Is that a
that
hand?
would-
Yeah, is that a hand or are you resting?
Oh no, I'm sorry.
Oh, alright.
Beautiful.
Good.
Dragging it back. Sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry, y'all. So, Kai, before we get into that, we just want to give the Senate a little bit of background on what you ended up, like how you started writing this while waiting for people to.
Right, okay, so in the landscape and stewardship meeting, they were asking the SGA to fund, 3 no-mow signs, one for the pollinator garden, one for the, I think it was a butterfly habitat, sanctuary type deal, and then another for water treatment, I believe. And I wanted to, I asked them more what the, whether it should fund the 3 signs or not, and I went ahead and just said, the majority was that the one sign from a previous Senate initiative was the pollinator garden, so I felt like it was better to give sign, or give money for the sign, since it was a past initiative, so only for that one sign. I believe it would be $109 instead of the $325 altogether.
Should be a good one. It's still not copied yet. Sorry.
Cool. Alright, so let's do this together. Alright.
Oh, wait, this is theirs? Okay, sorry.
I'll open up the legislation tracker to see if the number's still right.
27 should be right for us. I think Martha was never last. But, okay. So, friends. You will read this, or should I zoom in?
Oh,
This one. Oh.
I mean, you want,
There we go. Cool. So let's all read over this, and we'll just make all the amendments at once instead of like one by one.
Do you want to make some suggestions?
Let's see how many we have first. So can everybody read this, or do you want me to read it to you?
Can you read it, please?
Yeah. So, Senate legislation to fund no-mow signage for pollinator garden. Whereas the Student Government Association recognizes the need to provide the one-time fund for a no-mow signage valued at $109 for a past Senate initiative pollinator garden. SGA Senate Meeting, University of Maryland, Baltimore County will fund $109 for the no-mo signage from the Landscape Stewardship Shared Governance Committee. Great, so thoughts?
Yes. I think, from what I read from the last meeting's minutes, this was the 3 signs. And so this one will be at the front, right? That's what they were talking about when we went to the meeting.
For the college program, yes.
What do you mean by the front?
I mean, like the main, like, for the pollinator garden, that's what I meant.
Oh, okay.
So,
I think that's a good sign,
but for the pollinator
Oh, for
garden,
the
this
sign.
one sign will be good. I think we should fund it, especially if you do the previous Senate initiative. So it's kind of like following through on something that we started. I'm gonna have to work here.
I would suggest amendments. Besides SR, I think no in the title check codes, so that's parallel to the other roads.
Was there a motion to amend something?
Move to amend SR 27-18-19 to be SL 27-18-19 and to also include quotation marks around the middle.
Second.
I think we should add like, I guess, specification in the second part, where we say no more signage. I think we should put pollinator garden again. This is just in the title.
Okay, so what is that? How would that be worded?
So $109 for the no more signage for the pollinator garden, or of the pollinator garden.
I'm fine with that. I think just the way it leads then with for the landscape and stewardship sounds kind of funny. Yeah. Is that okay, Mary?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like grammatical change.
Hold on. For the pollinator garden or for pollinator? To the landscape and stewardship shared governance. Okay. Go ahead.
Just at the end of the first one for the pollinator garden, it should be a comment and a period.
This is small. Do we have to specify within the legislation where the money comes from?
Yes.
Well, this is assuming that's going to be the same.
Okay. I didn't know if we explicitly had to.
Is it?
So we're good. Alright, anything else?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
So why are we only funding one sign? Exactly?
So Pat, you want to talk about the 55 you got?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that, there was concerns about, like, since it was in the past SGA, thing, that, if we keep, it's expected, you don't want that expectation of, money being, and that makes sense.
Yeah, you.
Sorry. The other two signs, I understand, were not for SGA initiative. The other two signs were like for the butterfly thing and like something else. They weren't the SGA initiative that we have like discussed here, and that's I think pretty wrong. But that's okay. I understand. I think my reason is.
No, that's essentially they wanted us to pay for something that wasn't ours. So we're paying for the thing that is ours.
Sure, is that right now?
Yeah, I just have another question. So it's but this is a shared governance committee, right?
Right.
So who would be paying for those if we didn't pay for them? You know that?
So, most likely sustainability. And if not, other departments and the sheriff office. But I just figured that this is the majority consent, like where we stand.
Cool.
Motion to move to approve SL 27-181.
Second.
Okay, so I have another amendment which I'll leave you to it. Should this say signage for the pollinator? I mean, we fixed it later, so I didn't know if we should fix
Well,
it up top.
it's already been seconded, so we can't amend it as
Should we withdraw?
Just withdraw it?
yeah.
Alright,
What's in the?
You have to withdraw it if you want.
No.
number centers for.
Okay.
Probably.
Oh, there was a motion, right?
No, no, yeah.
Oh, okay, I was like
No.
confused. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Beautiful. Member centers opposed? Abstaining? With that, motion passes. Yay. So, now, is that right there? Yeah. What? Is it working through there? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So work with Tom. All right, friends. So I'm gonna fill it in. Cool. Briefly, we want to go over SGC updates and initiative updates. So if we can all, so when we're sharing out, try to like keep it to like 2 or 3 sentences because we're gonna start like putting a little bit more of a time constraint around SGC updates and initiative updates, not our roundabouts. But so do you all want to start with SGC or initiative first? SGC. Great. Who has SGC updates? Whoever wants to go first.
Who goes first?
Go.
Alright, so my quick thing is at the classroom committee, they decided that they're gonna renovate Lecture Hall 3 next, so over the summer they're gonna start working on fixing that up. The video services, at least amount of the video program that they're using is gonna go away and be replaced. But they're looking at rolling out a new video conference solution, which would basically, sorry?
Which one's Lecture Hall 3?
Lecture Hall 3, Admiral. Sorry. Yeah, they're planning on getting new carpeting, new seating, fixing in the back wall and new sound systems and accessibility services. So basically renovating the entire thing. For video services, they're working towards a video conference type thing that all students have to be able to use through WebEx. They have 25 seats currently for feedback and testing. Colin, I got your name on that, so you should be getting an email soon about getting access so you can use that software. The only request they have is that you, again, send them updates on like how it's going, things like that next step, just feedback in general. I have one too, so we'll be using that for other students. For the public policy building, they're going to start working on fixing out some of the computer lab there to kind of make that useful to regular classrooms, which should be available by next fall. And same with the English labs and tab on the 3rd floor. The computers are replacing, so they're probably going to get rid of them and turn that into a BYOD space. So just a heads up there. That's all that.
Beautiful. Do people have questions?
This is more so for Jen. Is that your name? Do you have access to the SGC folder?
I don't think so.
Can somebody like share it to her? Yeah.
What's your
G M E S S N E.
You got it?
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Are there any questions for
Was lighting in that thing about Lecture Hall 3? Or no?
Yeah, it's going to be lighting as well. They're going to increase the lighting power of the projectors as well on the screens. That's included.
All right. Any other questions? All right. We're ready to go.
Library policy, first meeting. I think there's a new chair, Deanna from the Graduate Student Association. Yeah. We basically talked about the renovation the library, kind of what the library was doing. They brought up something that I didn't know before about how they're like, how like part of the plan or the idea is that they're gonna like use like the makerspace, which you know about, but they're trying to do like a smaller makerspace initially, so they can get like I guess more funding to like help continue and develop the rest of the library. So then it was kind of like this like lighthearted remark, but they were saying like, oh, they just like we would like be developing this makerspace faster if we knew where the money was coming from, and it was just like, okay. So I didn't know if he was asking like us to help support that or anything, but yeah.
Oh, what is a makerspace?
A makerspace? So like it's like kind of like I was gonna say where you make things. But
No, but
where?
Yeah, like
It
you
would
said
be
there's one here.
No, they're trying to make one for like the library, for the library renewal. It would be like near the RLC.
So, so that leads into my second question. Like, what does the RLC fall under? Is it under the libraries, like library policy or library renewal policy?
What do you mean?
Like, would it fall under the library renewal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jerry, did you add something?
Okay, so just, you know where the RLC is?
Mm-hmm.
You know where the women's bathroom is, like the far back wall of the RLC?
Mm-hmm.
It would be behind that. Is where the makerspace would go. So that right now it's office space behind that wall.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Back there.
Okay, I thought you said there was a makerspace behind there. I was like,
Oh, there was not.
yeah, okay, it would be good.
Cool.
Anything else?
That was basically it.
So, they kind of like made they consolidated information from the campus climate survey. I'll pass it around or whatever. Sure. The important points on that was that only 1.5% of UBC's total population responded to it. So what data used there is like could be viewed by or changed by like 30 more people filling it out. But there is some pretty clear trends in those. Is there? And so they're trying to figure out how to publicize that information in what way. If you want to include numbers or not.
I just wanted to know what's
The Title IX questionnaire, climate survey thing. And so I didn't get to ask about the HR questionnaire because we didn't have time for Senate updates, Senate reports. So we wanted to ask them if they could help us with the HR. I'm sorry.
Human relations?
No, I don't mean human relations. UHS and counseling center. So I didn't get to ask them about that because we didn't have reports on the email, Adam later, and Leslie. They put the HR amendments on the table so that now we can, or now USC is able to change this since it was the November 10th deadline. They're interested in getting data from the listening session online, sharing things out. At the listening session, people could anonymously or whatever electronically submit testimonies. That's their one area so we can get data on that.
There.
They're asking for a copy of the spreadsheet responses.
They're just, they keep talking about it. And they're like, oh, yeah, there must be a lot of stuff in that listening session response. And they look at me and I'm like,
There's 2 people that have access to that sheet, and one of them is me, and what's being asked. So, I haven't gone through any of it since the listening session because that form started off as the form that we were using in the listening session, but they have put it up on Retriever Courage that anyone else can continue to submit their thoughts. It goes against the same tool more than I have.
So maybe Lisa can get part of the campus.
Yeah.
We're gonna hold questions till the end.
and then
Where did you have like
It's like on that topic very quickly. Just like I think that if it were to be discussed, if it was to come out, like those stories are kind of being share more openly, like
That's the whole thing, is that we put on it as a confidential
Yeah.
thing. We also put in the disclaimer that it wasn't to be used for people to share their story, hoping that it would get reported. I'm hoping no one has done that, and I haven't looked through anything. But I agree that there was a level of confidentiality that was going to those reports, which is why I think Candace and myself are hesitant to just be like, here you go, USC, for what you want to do. So, yeah.
The rest of the mandatory timeline training can be rolled out to the core group, admin, athletics coaches, police, people, student leaders are in that group for December. It's going to be rolled out for the rest of all UBC's employees, throughout January to May. And that student training is not on the table yet. They want the student leaders that are going to December to be part of the process of developing that material for students later. So.
And I can piggyback off of that. So I'm interested in getting everyone's feedback on this, if you have thoughts. I think one of the things that I'm really cognizant of and trying to find is the balance, right? I think there's a balance of where should students be stepping up and saying this is the expectation for what we need to be doing, but also recognizing we only have so much capacity because we have this full-time gig called being a student. So my whole push is, yes, we want a seat at the table, but no, I do not think students should be writing every ounce of the curriculum that should be going into the training, because I don't have a degree in what that should look like. I have no idea what that training should look like. What I worry from administration, from USC, is they really want students involved, which is fantastic, but it's finding the balance of student involvement and where it makes sense. So what I have been trying to push for is trying to push to find the balance so that it's not administration heavy, but it's also not student heavy. So I don't know if everyone thinks that, yeah, there should be 100% student led, 100% tap.
From what I heard,
okay.
They're just looking for feedback on students and how to, what they're doing for administration and students.
That's almost concerned too. 100% guaranteed. I hear you, and that's what I've been told in past things, but that's not how it plays out.
So what are you asking for again?
So when it comes to this sexual misconduct training that students will have to undergo, I think what I am trying to advocate for at the USC is that whatever this program looks like, it is not 100% developed by students, and it's not even 100% developed by the administration. It's finding the balance. What I'm saying to Brandon is, I think, even though there are good intentions, I think that what's going to ultimately happen is that there's going to be an attempt to push so that it's 100% students making this training, which we don't know. I think we don't have the necessary resources to be able to talk and say this is what training should look like.
So you're asking us to...
Are you okay with 50-50 or 100% balance in one way or another?
Is this meeting directed right now, or do you want them to set a meeting to have that conversation?
I'm fine with it now. As long as they have immediate reaction, or doesn't care one way or the other.
Do you want to do it early? Do you want to say anything before or after?
You can go first.
You sure?
You're good.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit on the message before, so I just feel like students should really be the ones leading the education. Students should absolutely have a say. I don't know about needed say what goes into them, but I think that it should be students think that this should be addressed. Now we have people who know the curriculum, write a curriculum to have it addressed. That doesn't mean students putting in the actual curriculum. I think that it should be students should go pick some of the topics and some of the things that we see as a problem to protect our interests as a body, but that we don't know how to
Does anyone disagree?
It's not that I disagree, but I think from what I'm hearing, I don't think they want us to be on the forefront of like developing the actual curriculum, but like it's more so like. So you're saying that they want us to like be the ones.
I'm saying in my experience, when I have heard that rhetoric, it's not true. In my experience, when I have heard that, it has been 100% pushed onto the students to do.
And what did that look like?
It looked like exactly this. It was like, we want to work with students to make this happen. Instead, administrators like, okay, you need to do this, and then looking for deadlines that it needs to happen from students. But I think students only have so much capacity because this is not the full-time job.
So like, as for like consulting, like I remember Dr. Young when Dr. Bosky came to speak to us, she talked about how they were going to be looking for students to like I guess like how to stay in the organizations that they chose to write the curriculum around the. Did they ever follow up on that, or is that the email that was put out?
That's really the student accountability team and the is that yeah. The student accountability. Student accountability team. Okay, that's the student accountability team, and then the procurement team and development out, which I have a meeting with Roy and Adam tomorrow.
So I don't think students should be on the front, like you said, but what students are we looking to help? Like, are they looking for student leaders or?
Yeah, and that's why we have the student accountability team, and that's why we put out that application.
What do you want to hear?
Yeah, I think listening. I don't have anything to say.
To answer your question, what I heard was that student leaders that are part of the December training or when you were part of that facilitation process. So when I didn't hear that it would be the student accountability. It would be student leaders. And I'm sure the student accountability people are also those same people, but it's not going to be just them. It's going to be about them and.
Who are the student leaders? Like that term is just very vague. Yeah. So what is who's that? Like.
Okay. There's a little, like so much convoluted stuff
with
all of this going on. So first off, there was. So what I'm worried about is that you're talking about a different group because there is another group, and yes. Welcome to bureaucracy, friends. So, hold on. Let me try, and then
Can you break it down? Like from the very top.
So, the very first weekend when the S hit the fan, there was a group of students that Dr. Young called. Me from the Julia Arbutus from Retriever, Kim, Nadia from We Believe You, people from staff, people from Reports, people from I think there were people from ESU, people from AS, like smorgasbord of people that were representing the different groups on campus. That group somehow got the nickname of the Sunday group because, wait for it, guess what day of the week we met on Saturday? We met on Saturday. We met on Sunday afternoon. So there's that group of folks that have been called into everything. While this group of folks have just kind of been in the gray abyss of bureaucracy, we have also been charged, and by we, I mean SGA and GSA, have been charged with leading the student accountability team. Student accountability team is a different asterisk mark group that can have those Sunday group folks and more, which is why we put out the application to determine who is the and more that wants to be a part of this process. Does that make sense-ish?
So what was the Sunday group responsible for, and what is the student accountability?
The Sunday group was really just a debrief group. Like, they didn't have any formal authority.
They just wanted like immediate reactions, so people that they knew were involved.
So just like basically saying like how they felt about it, or like how they. basically channeling like what the student body felt about the situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was like the Sunday, so if the news broke on Friday, this was like that Sunday.
Okay.
So it was literally like our immediate reaction.
Okay. And then the student, the accountability group is responsible for.
They are the ones that are going to be the actual liaison to the implementation group. And the implementation team reports to shared governance. I'm telling you, it's very convoluted,
Yeah.
so that's why all of these lines are going all over the place, and you can get lost real easily, so that's why I'm worried that there's 40 student groups and 20 of students are involved in every single group listed. So, yeah, and it's very convoluted. So I'm thinking that one of the groups that you were talking about was actually the Sunday group.
I had big references to the group.
Right, because my gut is that top administration isn't realizing that the Sunday group can also be a part of the student accountability team.
That is a liaison to the student implementation group.
No, this is the implementation group, so this will have staff and faculty.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
All right, I need to know.
That's a lot. So back to college.
I'm not hearing any objections to we need to have 50-50. This is what I mean by like, this whole nonsense should not be 100% students' jobs. Like, we need to find, but at the same time, it should not be the administration's jobs either. We have to find the balance, but that means advocating for the balance and saying, and putting the foot down a little bit and saying like, no, this is what we're capable of doing right now. Here's what we're not capable of doing. Here's what you need to be doing. Because we can say that, but we just need to.
Cool. Okay. Move up. Great. Is that it?
And then they're looking for undergraduate representatives for the HR advisory committee, and I told them that Patrick and I did it.
Is there anything we should know? Okay, great.
Is that the SGC, Student Governance Committee, that's like being made again? Or what is that?
So the HR advisory committee is the committee that is trying to fix HR.
Human resources.
Oh, this is like completely like not related.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a left hand.
Okay. I thought this was another committee.
That's a committee to figure out what to do with the shared governance.
Yes.
It's like because.
No, I got it. Okay.
But it's going through shared governance, right? Like they don't be, okay. Cool.
Human relations. Human resources is like the department.
Right.
Human relations is the SGC. I meant.
We're all there. So there's a lot of
Human relations advisory.
This place says HR.
Human resources is like human relations.
I switched it.
They're the workers, yeah.
I know that.
There you go. Great.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow, I'm so tired.
That's all I've learned. Brandon, anything else? Anybody have questions for Brandon?
I have nothing else for you.
I have an SGC.
Oh, go ahead.
Provost Ralph just emailed me. Senate, Faculty Senate uses legit Robert's Rules of Order, like I mean to a T, like it's disgusting. So for a motion to be presented, there has to be a discussion the meeting before to introduce the motion, and then the motion gets introduced in the following meeting, and then it goes on. So the Patrick, what's the SGC around? Is it general education?
Undergraduate council, yeah.
Yes, they are presenting the motion at Faculty Senate tomorrow about the gym requirements. And there's expected to be conversation in negative So, given that that conversation is taking place tomorrow, and then faculty senate vote in December.
We good with that?
They're technically open meetings, so yeah. I can email Provost Ross and ask if people can go. So with their Robert's rules, you are given 2 minutes to speak, and they will cut you off. Like they have a timer, they have a timekeeper, and they will say no. They did it to Provost Rouse, 10 out of 10. And they also did it to Dr. Rowski. That didn't go over. They tried to kind of, like, it was like, beep, 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 kept going. Did not, just ignore them. But yeah, they have an actual timer. So there won't be a discussion at all in December, just to make this point very clear. In December, it will strictly be a vote.
I guess this is related to your committee, but I spoke to Dr. Jeske in our advisory meeting, and he said that if it does pass, and I guess this is useless information because, anyway, but he says if it does pass, he would tell people to start expecting the cutting of gym classes because that's all. You could elaborate probably.
$3 million. It's basically like, because there probably if it's not a requirement and there's no like follow up on that requirement, then it's not GAD or anything, it's just nothing, then there's like a pretty good chance that students who could do these things aren't meeting classes, which is like I feel like a fairly accurate statement. Like if you're not forced to take gym class, you're not, especially some I mean basically they probably start cutting down on a lot of these courses to fit in their amount of courses. So and just real quick sidebar on like this month SGC update, you guys should be pretty much covered. They're in the introduction, and then the staff right now, I guess the faculty or staff and staff of like the PE department will retain like their current pay for like the time being, just to protect like their integrity as like staff and people, so that's just
like even if they're not teaching these classes.
For now, it'll stay as it basically don't just cut.
If it passed, how soon will it be?
They're trying to do it by next semester.
Winter.
Okay, yes, so
I would have to take it. Somebody
said if passed, it will take place in winter of 19, and there will be a campus email alert. I don't remember who asked for that, but
that's this winter,
yeah. So, Provost Rouse and Dean Cole will send out an email. They said, okay, if the discussion goes as everyone says it will, Provost Rouse and Dean Cole will be sending out an email tomorrow with that information. Because if the discussion goes as everyone plans it will go, then the vote's going to be no in December. So we might know tomorrow. Nope. Faculty Senate is the only Senate Faculty Senate is the only Senate that determines graduation requirements.
You must donate $300 to the graduate Senate.
I'm taking attendance. I'm going to be stuck in class. It'll be fine. Other education.
So we have SGA, Student Administration Academic Advisory Committee that I didn't know about. Yes, so it looks like students and administration might be like these like students in college level. They're meeting on November 28th, Wednesday at noon. Who's available together? Wednesday 28th, November, Wednesday 28th is at noon. Anybody else?
Patrick and Leader.
It might be like.
I'll cement you in there, Patrick.
What,
Student.
what are they gonna be talking about? Is it just like, hey,
They were there's a lot.
okay, never mind. I figured it out. Put me down there. Great. Okay, anybody else? Alright, did you end up being free today? Not very good, huh? That's pretty great. Is that it for fresh students? Yes? Okay. Cool, thank you all. Okay, initial conversation. I know you all want to have this conversation. So this is gonna kind of tie into like a bigger reset, kind of hit the button kind of thing that the Senate kind of needs. I know a lot of you have voiced frustration with the team and learning each other, just kind of like around, and I hear you. So Brandon and I are here to listen, and I think this will be great. So Jared offered to help us out though. So I think this is a great level how we got here.
Sure.
Well,
I mean, I can tell. Okay, so guys, I'm pretty frustrated with Senate right now. I had conversations with Colin, Brenda, Lily, and Brandon, and I've actually talked to a couple of you guys too, and like, I was on the verge of like dropping to that point, because I think so far with Senate, I don't feel like we've gotten anything done, you know, and that really frustrates me because we put in a lot of hours. And as far as that, I know a lot, like other people I've talked to in this room have told me they're also kind of frustrated. I don't know about the level that I am, right? But I feel like that we need to have a conversation to address our frustrations, because if we don't, I don't think anything's going to get better and change. And personally, for me, if nothing changes, I'm going to resign. So, but I actually ended up making a presentation about what exactly I think personally that I don't really like about what we do right now, and ways that I think we could improve. So, I just want to start that conversation and get it rolling, because it's just, we haven't had this conversation. We need to. So I'm going to pull it up.
yeah, so Brandon goes, not Brandon, Jared will go through that, and then Brandon and I will lead for a follow-up conversation.
I have a question. I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So is it just gonna be like we're just gonna listen and everyone like say what he thinks, and then we're just gonna talk right after that, or?
So Jared has some like proposals for what he thinks could be better.
Okay.
So like hear those out. And also I think a lot of these frustrations he's like culminated from frustrations he like has heard from other people. So yeah, then we'll go to a conversation of like based on I want to hear your guys' feedback on what needs to change, what helps you stay here, what you do here, that kind of stuff. So in the meeting we'll
Okay.
So I think while Jared's talking, if you all like, if he says something and you all resonate with it, feel free to just like give some snaps. It's not too loud, but it lets like me and Brandon hear that people are like feeling that.
You really made us look some type of way.
Wow,
No, wait.
we use the whole borders. UMBC borders. It looks like
You're such a concept.
like 36 foundations of which.
Yeah, but Dad's gonna be a good person.
That's all. If you
were there, you would click your right up.
I can do it. Well, you click.
You got her a clicker.
I'm looking for another type of clicker. Like a clicker for like chemistry, physics, math.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It's somewhere else.
Wow.
Great. So, starting conversation. Let's go. All right. Senator Ford. All right. First of all, I'm up here. All right. I'm pretty frustrated, right? Instead of resigning, and again, I talked about you guys, and we've had similar sentiments. So, fine. And why am I frustrated is because, again, I feel like we haven't done anything very tangible at the Senate. And I came here wanting to make a change on campus, right? That's what I came to do. And not having done anything, having spent so much time is really frustrating. So, and right now it doesn't feel like that's going to change if we continue the same way that we're going, right? So, yeah, so I'm frustrated. So what are my options? I can either leave, or I can try to make it better. So, let's go. Let's get better. All right. Disclaimer one, again, everything in here is my opinion. It doesn't necessarily mean any other senator believes these things, but you might, you may not, right? All right, first of all, problems as the way I see them. Number one, I think that our meetings are too long and inefficient, okay? Number two, we don't have any initiatives currently, and that's really frustrating because that's sort of our main, or one of our main roles. And number three, we don't have any connection to the student body. And the student body is basically what empowers us as senators, and I'm going to get more into that as I go forward. So, a couple of goals to, I guess, fix these problems would be to get average meeting times down to 1 hour. And that might seem a little bit lofty, but I have it laid out in the slides. Number two, to create our initiatives based on influencing future plans of UMBC. And again, all these I'm going to go into, sorry, that shouldn't say recap, but I have a recap later. But again, as far as our initiatives, and then number two, I think we should make it a goal to have a meeting communications person at our meetings to have that connection with the student body, because again, that's their role within the legislative body. And number four is for each of us to then compile highlights and questions from our SGC meetings to present to that rep, because that's how they can get the information that we need to broadcast to the student body. And again, I'll elaborate more on this stuff as we go. So first of all, meeting length and efficiency. Meeting length, right? Here's the main components of our meetings, right? We have SGC updates, initiative updates, executive update, which is once a month, and that's that column. Then our confirmations and faculty correspondence. In some meetings we have other things going on, and of course it'll be a decision of the Senate itself whether or not we decide to work on our initiatives in meeting. But as far as the necessary components right here, right? Next, so let's add some high estimate times to these different things. So I try to shoot pretty high to when I compile these times. So SGC updates, I assume max would take about 30 minutes. Initiative updates, 20 minutes, 10 per initiative. Executive update, maybe 10 minutes max if you need that. Confirmations, 1.5 hours, and faculty correspondence, 1 hour. So if you compile all these together, that's 3.5 hours. That's 9 o'clock. I don't think it's realistic that we should be here longer than 9 o'clock. Right? Number two, average meeting, okay? Just SGC updates, just initiative updates, just an executive update, maybe, right? Compile that, that's 1 hour, right? That's 6:30. We've never been out here before like 7, you know? We have had a lot of meetings in which we've had confirmations, but I feel like we can hit these time periods. Like it's within our grasp, but the way that we currently do meetings is very slow, inefficient, and I feel like they disrespect a lot of people's time. All right. So goal 1, get the average meeting down or times down to 1 hour. Senate initiatives, right? So what is unique about us as senators? That's the first question when you're talking about initiatives. Number 1, we as senators attend the university SGCs, right? So that means that we have a platform on which we can talk to faculty or the student body. So with our SGCs, we get to know what's happening. And number 2, we have a platform to tell faculty what the student body wants. So what's an initiative? An initiative, my definition, is an attempt to influence the future plans of UMBC to be in line with the desires of the student body. And this includes things that, or this is mostly related to our unique slot as the SGC rep. Because in our shared governance committees, that's where we hear about the change that's going on at campus in the future. For example, the library renovation committee, which I have here on this next slide, right? UMBC is completely refurbishing the library. We can influence faculty leaders to get things that we want in the library through our position, things that the student body would want, right? Without a push, an idea that the student body wants might not get into that plan. That's where I think a Senate initiative comes in, right? We ask the student body, actually, we say, okay, what do you guys want to see? And then they respond, give us their response, and then we have the backing to then take that response to the faculty. And it's with that weight behind us and that push and that idea that we create change on campus, because without that push, that change doesn't happen. All right? Now, again, this is my example, but this would be a counter example, and that would be the pollinator garden. And no offense to anyone who did the pollinator garden, but I don't know, but within my the definition that I think of a SGC or of a Senate initiative, I feel like this is more of an executive council initiative, right? Where you have, it's not really related to what's going on in SGCs, and it's a pretty short-term project. There's no real long-term thing, so it's not really utilizing the position of the senator to talk with faculty and advisors and sort of use their knowledge of SGCs in position to influence the faculty to make something happen. This is more of just a project to create something new on campus. Like I said, something that an executive council would do. And again, like I said, this definition is my definition, so it doesn't have to necessarily be the definition that we adopt, but just something to be thinking about when we're deciding what initiatives we want to do. Right, so this brings me back to goal number 2, which is to create initiatives based on influencing the future plans of UMBC. Okay, so then back to the definition. So an attempt to influence the future plans of UMBC to be more in line with the collective desires of the student body. So then how do we know what the student body wants? And that's where connections to the student body comes in, something that we're really lacking right now, because we don't have a connection to the media communications branch. So why should we connect? As I said before, student opinion is where we get our influencing power. Without it, we're basically just one student saying what we think. So student opinion is what directly enables us as senators to push for the initiatives that we want. When we're by ourselves, we're weak. You know, we're just one voice. When we have like student opinion behind us, we're more powerful, because then they have to take us seriously, because that's what the campus wants.
Okay.
So here's what it looks like right now. One senator. SGC. Yeah, whatever. Who cares what you say? We're going to do whatever we want. And this is what it should look like.
Wow.
Yeah.
You put out all the graphics.
This is the one. This is the one.
Somebody support the senator. There gives you a lot more influence over the power of the university. Right? So what does the dialogue look like, right? Again, so this dialogue, that's not our job, right? As Senate, or as Colin has said oftentimes, that's the job of the media communications branch, right? So therefore, we need to have that rep at our meeting so we can give them information and questions about what happens at our SGCs they can give to the student body. So first, information, right? So the SGC reports that we already bring into Senate meetings, shouldn't be broadcasted to the student body, or that they should be given a place where students can see them. Because that's what's happening on campus, and students should know what's happening on campus. We're just the one student that is able to sit in on the meetings. But with that, we should be informing people of what they should know about what's happening, because it affects everyone, not just us. And then the way we can do that is by having a rep at our meetings to get that information and then send that out. And this is kind of what we were trying to do with one of our first initiatives, the communication initiative, right? But again, like, it's not necessarily our job. So that's why we need a rep here. The questions, this is where we get student opinion. I think this question piece is almost the most important piece, because if we can get responses from the student body, and we can use that when we go back to our SGCs and we can say, hey, this isn't just something I want. I talked to the student body and they said, or 50% of the respondents or 75% of the respondents said, this is what I want. Right? That carries a lot of weight, because if you had 100 people respond and 75% of them said that they want it, right? The normal sample size is 30 for a population. So that means that most likely around 75% of this whole student body is going to be for that. And that carries weight, like I said. And basically, what's great about this is that it's not necessarily our job to figure out how to get out those questions, but it's we have to present those questions before they can be put out, right? So we do carry the role of forming those questions and forming what we want to get from the student body. And then we give that to the meeting communications branch to then get out to the students and get back to us. So then goal number 3, have a meeting communications rep that attends the SGC reports of every meeting. And I think that having those at the beginning, like we did this time, would be most polite to anybody who is coming to witness those reports. And then also goal number 4, which is for us to compile highlights and questions from our meetings whenever we go to SGC. So we already do our highlight reel, right? But I think that if we want to have influence with regard to our initiative, it's important to add that question piece. So recap, problems. Senate meetings are, in my opinion, a little bit too long. We don't have any initiatives, and we don't have a connection to the student body. And then here's the recap of the goals. So to solve meeting times, I think it's realistic that we can get them down to an hour. I think that as far as our initiatives, we should create initiatives that influence the future plans of UMBC, not just create short-term projects. And we should, as far as addressing the concerns about connecting with the student body, we should have a meeting comms rep at our meetings, and that we should have, that it should be our responsibility when we come with SGC updates to have a list of highlights and then maybe 1 or 2 questions that of the important pieces that we want the student body, or that we want feedback from the students. So, any questions? So we can discuss this a lot more. Is that what we're doing the rest
Yeah,
of the
we're about to
meeting?
lead into it. I have some things.
Okay.
Real quick, this is just personal whatnot. Why don't we get food first and then like dive into this so we can spend the rest of the meeting just like. Is that it? Like, yeah, like, is that just because I feel like that way, like for those of you who must haven't eaten yet or anything like that, like if we want to like dive in, like does anyone have feedback on that so we can really try to go like.
Is everybody okay with like 10 minutes?
Absolutely no objections at second discussion.
All right, please be back by 6:50.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You appreciate it?
Awesome solid things.
You don't want to fix that. You don't want to fix that. Maybe if you want to walk about it, we're off there. They never run up. You're done. I know everything. I'm better than sure.
She's gonna be watered in. No, you don't want that.
That was wrong.
Good job. I'll probably bring up what you said in our meeting about like trying conditions, like this is things you don't like. I have some points.
Well, I just think it's.
To like push back on.
Can we
Well, it should be. We can do it. Yeah, we can do it with the
Are you
group.
okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, I just didn't know if you wanted to.
set down rules for it, you know.
I think you could, do you already ask? Totally agree with you.
That's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as like what I was texting you about the discussion with this, it's
Yeah.
just my only concern is just that it might just evolve into just plain discussion or discussion of things that aren't really, or just hyper analyzing every single little point.
Yeah, I'm gonna mostly like structure, I'm gonna try to mostly just structure like the things you brought up and get feedback around those things and boil it down from there, and then we'll, yeah.
Like the way I kind of envisioned it was like we just take the board and we just start writing down stuff and figure out what the main points are. Then like for the brainstorming things, you know, like 1 or 2 hours like reading information.
Sure. Well, actually, I think that could be good. I mean, we could give them those like tools, but I want people to have that every now and then to break off their groups if they don't want to be in groups anymore. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So maybe they can do an outside meeting so that we can get out of here by like 7:30. I don't want to be here more than that.
Yeah.
I think
Well, I mean,
7:30.
okay, this was more about just structuring how we wanted to, or not necessarily figuring out initiatives, but figuring out how we want to structure a meeting and how we want to.
Those 3 A's.
Like, whatever concerns people have in addressing those, yeah. Like, we don't necessarily have to have initiatives planned out by the end of the meeting. I just meant as far as, yeah.
And it was one of the really weird ones.
Because I feel like, well, I mean, yeah, I guess as far as like where the meetings are going, I guess that's the next immediate change, because we're getting initiatives soon.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So,
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You're gonna say something?
No?
You just said hello.
Yeah. You just looked over here, so I was like, okay.
Oh, I didn't know you were still there. I heard like you typing or something, and I was like, who's still here? Okay, this initiative.
HR committee is currently active.
Heck, stay with me,
And it's.
Jared, I can see you being in the military.
What?
I can see you being in the military.
Oh, you should. My friend works for Health and Human Services.
Mm-hmm.
She's a veteran.
Oh.
And they made a video for veterans, and it's all her.
Oh, really?
It's very cool.
That's
like,
cool.
Just today is
Veterans Day.
Veterans Day.
What part was she in? Like,
She was in the Army. She
Oh.
did tours in Iraq.
oh, wow. That's cool. Oh, well, that's powerful.
Yeah. So I was like, wait, what? They picked you to do this video? There's 6,000 veterans that work in Health and Human Services.
Wow.
Yeah.
These are.
Just have fun, so I'm just trying to get it.
So
I just grabbed
added
some.
sands.
Oh,
What do you have? Do you have like a...
Fillering tattoo.
So US.
Oh, tattoo.
US stands for
Oh.
You can't like itch it. 'Cause it's-
Oh, what? A genetic tattoo? Or you just got it
A
tattooed?
new tattoo.
Oh.
Genetic tattoo.
No, it's not. Never heard of that before. No. I was Disney.
You did? Yeah.
I was Disney World.
Sorry.
Disney, yeah, what?
How, where are you going? He's
We're gonna ask for water. I didn't get it.
No, you are not hurting your
You yell at me when I do things and when I don't do things. Can we
No,
just talk
sorry.
about this
You're
real
looking
quick?
first. We have a senator asking you a question.
What was your sound?
How was Disney World?
It was fantastic, especially since I went for approximately 1/3 of the cost of what it probably should be.
Ooh, damn, that's nice.
Yeah, I have 3 friends that are cast members, so
Oh.
got hit up with a free ticket every day and 40% off my hotel. So
Oh,
you know.
no. Were you in the Disney Resort? One of the Disney
I
resorts?
was in the Disney
Oh,
Resort.
wow, you're fancy.
So it wasn't. So
It was under refurbishment, right?
yes. So note to anyone: if you're going to stay on Disney Resort, it's like, grand scheme of things, it's like $7,500 more a night to be in one of the nicer resorts that has a connect to the monorail, which you 10 out of 10 should do.
What are the four? Those
Yeah.
are pricey.
Not the Floridian or the Contemporary, but the
Polynesian?
Polynesian's not that much more.
What's the other one?
There's 3 that are connected: Polynesian, Contemporary, and Floridian.
Right.
Floridian is
Don't
big
even
no.
touch it.
Don't ever touch it.
Contemporary.
Contemporary's like up there,
Well, they
but
have to
like
pay Lake Tower, so that's crazy.
yeah. But Polynesian's actually
Have
not
you been in
bad.
the Polynesian?
Yeah, it was bad. And it's very cool.
Is that the castle?
No,
Polynesian is like a Hawaiian.
Hawaiian themed hotel.
You said Polynesian?
Polynesian.
Like the sauce?
Yeah.
Like the people.
That's where I was.
Oh.
That's where I was.
Oh. Sorry.
Like Polynesia. Polynesia is like a large area of islands.
Oh.
So Hawaii part of that. Fiji, like, yeah.
Oh, cool. Wow. I wonder why that sauce is called Polynesian.
Maybe because it has pineapple.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I could be making that up.
Yeah, you could, but it
I
sounds right.
probably am.
It sounds okay though.
I mean, that's typically what happens when I make something up. It sounds sort of like
So Jared, I'm kind of like adapting some of the questions
That
that smells
smells
good
good.
in different discussions and models.
So you can stay in that castle though, right? Isn't that super expensive?
You can, but you have to like win it.
Oh, you have to win it? Oh.
They do have a breakfast and a lunch. They have meals you can eat up in the castle.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all to meet all of the princesses.
Aw. That's nice.
Great.
No, we're like more than halfway through.
I feel like that's just so expensive to be in that castle.
Oh yeah, to eat in that castle is also really expensive.
I believe it. Because Disney's not cheap.
We'll have more watchers. We still have one. I really tried.
You advertise it?
Yeah, I put it on Facebook.
On the Facebook?
You made it.
Yeah, sure.
Hey. Hey.
I was like, I was trying to say, you kept saying hey, and I was like,
Hey. You did good up there.
What?
You did good up there.
Hey.
Yeah. Were you nervous?
Was that cathartic?
What? The,
you were nervous or you weren't?
what do you mean cathartic?
Like, did it feel like a release?
To make it?
Yeah, and then to present it.
Yeah. It's been a process though.
That's okay.
It's been a couple conversations.
Okay.
Stages.
Talk about your stakeholders.
Yeah.
Oh, that was good.
Huh?
Who are you saluting to?
The camera. The general audience.
Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thanks, Coach.
Yeah,
Yeah, that.
although the Marines are actually part of the Navy. Don't tell the Marines that. They don't like to be reminded.
My dad was in the Navy. My dad was in the Navy.
They sure are.
Like, bully each other, so they like cancel each other out. It's not like a math
I don't know. He was what was that thing called?
That's not.
He was a senior chief or something. Yeah.
It's so much. It's like 1 times 1 is 1. You know, like
I'm really nice and I can grab
Nice.
Really? You are so full of yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking about your pants were navy blue.
The military team army.
Oh.
So maybe 2 people. Probably shouldn't have maybe someone here responded.
They're so messy.
We're not.
Aren't they messy? Messy.
That's bad.
Well, that.
Oh, listen. You're not even up on leave.
Listen.
I'm just kidding. Oh, that's fine. That's fine. I don't know.
2 more minutes.
This is fun.
People are gonna show up on time.
I've never hated a person more than I do.
Also, I cannot tell you how excited I am to be paying $1.50 again for this stuff. Because Disney, good God, they have figured out capitalism. And by that, I
Yeah,
mean
it's
$1.
not Disney.
$6, $4.50.
That's it.
$4.50.
All right. Only you could find something to complain about while going to Disney.
That's why I.
$4.50.
That's pretty expensive.
You went to
for
Disney.
the meal plan and then I just don't even worry.
You don't think about it.
I don't think about it. It feels free enough.
$4.50.
There you go. All meal plans.
The problem with meal plans.
That's how
see her.
You can bring in as much food as you want to Disney World.
I know, but now they like
Yes.
really screen you on
Yes.
the TSA about the food thing.
They really do.
You go to Publix, but then you can't do that if you get picked up by that magical bus.
No, I mean like, I feel like the real TSA, like at the airport.
That's called, you know what that's called? Security theater.
Oh yeah.
Okay, that security theater, the TSA is not keeping you safe.
That's the T.
You know who told me that?
That's the
Adam.
T.
Everything. I brought Adam with everything during FYA because I was talking about the Cars episode.
Oh
Which one is that?
The Cars one where it's like cars ruined everything and like
I haven't
drove
seen that
their
one.
shit.
That was so good.
That one is so good.
What?
Have you seen the one about? Did you see the one about
Me.
The origin of Virginia.
Yes. The immigration one,
Tear
fantastic.
That one's good.
Teared up.
I like quote the immigration one.
I haven't seen that one yet. I haven't seen that one.
It's on the Netflix. It's on the Netflix.
It's not good.
It was a like a YouTube series, like a web series. Yeah, and then now he has it in a show on Netflix.
It's so good. It's so good. Adam really knows it.
You would his hair.
You would really like
You would really like it. It's quality.
I love when people reply all the emails. Love it.
Yeah, $4.50 for like water,
Yep.
$20 for like lunch.
Yep. That's just for like the fast food.
You were on that UBC per diem.
I was looking at that. I was like, you know, I don't remember last time
In
I
Chicago,
traveled
I didn't
and I
pay
didn't
for
get
anything.
reimbursed. Like, excuse me.
Chicago was like $25 for dinner. I spent like $24.98.
Yeah,
Like,
on that.
Oh really?
They did it.
that's the way to go.
It's right there.
Yeah.
Oh wait,
Oh, I don't care. That's how.
All right, just waiting for some plans.
Their next one is made up. Isn't it? I looked over the process.
There's gonna be some.
Next up to order or next up to get their food?
Dude,
Okay.
I was like, give me the cold pasta.
Very
Okay,
different things, Patrick.
Sorry.
It's not the first one that's on have.
I could have just had a
Who is?
Yeah, it has a lot of sugar.
I'm sure that's
Yeah, the same amount of sugar. Well, Coke has like 86 grams of sugar. Right.
This is probably one
Sarah, Shayna,
What guys?
Are you gonna respond to my text or are you just gonna read it?
that's
I just
Ben.
forgot.
Ben.
Huh? I don't respond immediately.
Why?
Steve.
What are you
They
gonna
wait,
do?
wait 10 minutes and then they respond.
I'll just respond to you all.
I have to sometimes.
Was it how many times were there on the freeway where that wouldn't last you?
I have a whole meme.
She has
I
two
thought-
actors. One of them is Dora and Leia. The other one is Maya. That's just wearing a tropical Hawaiian shirt, wearing glasses. Shit.
Those are memes she sent you. Or those are you?
I'm really so in love with him. I'm gonna find him and marry
Very
him.
good.
We only had two guys, two that like it felt way. Because you guys are always together. We were never together.
Me.
Yes, but that's
I
not
felt like it was
What is
weird.
on time?
What do you mean?
I was the only guy in any situation going forward.
They don't be
Ronnie
wrong.
was like, doing
Yes. She said that to me.
But
Not because I have to drive up
that's why. For Monday.
because I brought my friend down from Temple.
Better tell them you don't have
I'll do
bus.
that.
It's too much traffic to drive back.
You better tell them you don't have bus. Then you gotta drive all the way back.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
Wait, yeah,
who's
that's-
that?
That is the dumbest decision you've ever made in my life.
No, the dumb decision was deciding at 4:30 p.m. to buy tickets to a 7 o'clock rate in Philadelphia. Then proceeding to leave the week afterwards, driving up and calling my friend, telling me that to buy tickets on the way up, and then asking my ticket.
You know what? You're right. I'm sorry I opened up that door.
Yeah.
I closed it back.
That's extreme, bro.
It was worth it though.
You got it.
Fantastic.
I bought tickets at 7 o'clock.
my regular
For Travis'
beach
house,
around,
7:30.
so-
I never made it better.
You didn't schedule classes.
Right, it's always those like last.
How did that sell out?
I never scheduled you to say.
I don't know. But like, that was just cool. It was.
Where do you come from?
2 miles away.
Oh,
It was last Thursday.
Wait, I don't know.
I thought
Scott with a long time. Like he was the opener for the meeting.
Yeah.
It's like he's got a long game.
Yeah.
They definitely, yeah, no, those like last decisions, those like might as well. Those are always the best times.
The reduced ticket price.
$35 for second round. That's not bad at all. No, that's actually really. Originally there were 70. Ooh, 70.
What are you talking about, Scott?
Oh, Travis Scott, you went.
How was that?
How'd you know that?
We were gonna talk about it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you were down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking about it.
I had that.
San Polo.
One of the best ones. Like even the songs that aren't lit, like Stargazer. There's no mosh pit for Stargazer. Like you did, I was just so excited, like so hyped.
Because well, I'm gonna be in New York next week.
Sorry.
So I want to see
That's
San
wrong.
Polo.
Okay, sorry. Hold on.
Exactly.
What is your name?
Oh, so I can make it.
Yeah.
Also this one.
What? You mind it? You go to the
No more something. It's the last one.
That does sound fun.
Brandon, it's the last one. Yes, it is.
Wear that wet on one page. You're like 10 others. I don't even know what to say. All I could do was laugh.
People are wild all the time.
You know, we were like excited about how well it went, but
Brenda's called me racist.
Oh,
Listen, I couldn't pass the day or whatever. I don't look like a Brenda. She does not look like a Lily. I woke up and I was like, wow, that'll never happen. But I tried. I was like, you wouldn't smart.
I didn't say that. I said you do not look like Brenda.
We don't look alike?
No.
As you get older, I see those.
Is it time to start again?
So we're twins now.
You're
I'm here.
Ponytail.
Not even a little bit. Not even a little bit.
Where are you going?
Huh?
Where are you going?
Nowhere. Marcia loves you.
Oh my gosh.
That's where Kia.
Hi.
I was talking about earlier.
Wow, I love you.
Wait, let me see. Why are you putting her not close enough?
Because she has to flip the camera.
Wow, hi. My face is very
We're still waiting for
Where is that? Where Everybody say hi to Marquita.
Hi, Markia.
She's hot.
what was the performance?
You said her sweater.
Tomorrow at 4. I really like that I said this. No.
Alright, so somebody get in contact with our Disney friends and see how long they're going to be. Are they out there?
No, they're like.
Wait, going out there? Wait, so are you even texting them?
I feel like I'm just
Yeah, so we're just gonna stay in the hall and yell.
Seriously, no one of you are through.
Yeah.
One other person heard it, and it's like after I'm talking, I'm just gonna be like, because she's gone.
I told her about this.
Is that
Well, these people are, yeah.
I submitted all my
iPhone 10R.
Okay, yes.
So I'm actually pretty shook by that.
What is that? iPhone 10R. What the heck is that?
The XR. It's like the cheap one.
Oh, SLR? Or 10R? 10R?
Right here.
Where are you then?
Apple.
Where are you then? It's so fancy.
I just do, you know, 2, there's no iPhone 2, you know, 3G.
I switched it just by year. I'm gonna 5C.
Classic,
Like
right?
the colored ones.
Yeah.
The extras basically
For you?
like that before like yeah.
Oh, cool.
Because the SD down and
No.
FL.
That's
It's
good.
like,
I don't know.
okay, got it. Or you? Yeah, she interviewed me for this job.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
I was there.
And then she went to the Peace Corps.
Hello, friends.
And then we talked to them over the summer.
No.
Yeah.
Now Patch mixes. Who's I talking to? And Leah. This is why I told them not to because now they're here and
Yo, did you finish that pass?
now these two are my point.
What project? Connect Four? Yeah, I don't know her.
What was due like Friday?
We don't know her.
We can start with
Jesus.
Patrick and go back to Ryan Marquita. I mean, not Marquita. She's on the phone. Mary was here. And then, as I told them not to, if they get lost, they got lost in all week.
Where's Marquita?
Marquita's in the Peace Corps and wherever she was sweating.
Costa Rica? Yeah, no, I'm thinking like, why would she drive?
She was on the phone.
She was the vice president last year.
So she was like the last minute.
Here. Alright, friends.
She was nasty.
Jared, do you like best practice?
Yeah. No, I absolutely not.
By any chance? I don't have a number.
They ain't with dispute by the way.
No, I don't.
She did that still.
Jared, you
She's
have his
like,
number? Because are you two practice?
Did we ask you? You got your friends.
What?
You got your friends.
And she was penetrated his masses.
who?
And she was female.
Yeah, we did too.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like I feel like we just take it into wider circles and then just look at y'all. And he's like, right. And he's just like something conspicuous, like contact me, he's playing Smash in his room. And little did he know, he's influencing the whole campus.
You know, like, you're not so beautiful.
How dare you?
And she saw me. Right there. In Castle. That's where this came from.
Police.
No.
Friday.
So, like, she's also just a story.
I figured it out.
Alright, we're kind of.
Every time I think of her, I just get
That's
bad
where
memories
it
back
comes
from like,
Yeah, so she was like, you know, she was really a friend with the program. But then, like, I texted her as the class, we could have got every Friday or whatever, right? And she was like, okay, that. Like, like, I don't know. So, like, I was just in the house one day, I'm confused. And then she walks in, and
Oh, that's actually a deal. I went to find Miriam and Kai. And they
I was
got
looking for her just in Castle, like, you know, okay. I see her walk out again, I know who she is. But she was like, she was gonna keep it cool, like, pretty chill. She was sitting with me, and then she like,
Thank
she
you.
was like walking around. She's like, you guys like passed me, like, let's go.
Why was the message started before meeting her?
Hi, welcome back. Alright. There's a few things that I want to go over, then we're going to go into like a discussion. So I wanted to give Jared just like complete autonomy to kind of like share his points. I didn't want to like read it over and give him feedback because how he feels is how he feels, but your opinions are valid too. So I want to tell you some of at least random my intentions that we came up with on Friday, and some of the things also that I want to clear out based on Jared's presentation. So to my understanding, somebody from Media and Comm should be coming right next to you. Yes? Great. So outreach is important both from the Senate and the executive side, and so whenever you're doing things, feel free to always put out on like your own Facebook or ask your own groups that you're a part of, or if you live in a residence hall, feel free to ask them. Of course, your samples are going to be kind of biased because they're like specific to where you live, but any student feedback is better than none. And we'll have the help of media comms to be doing that. I want to emphasize that your job is to be working with faculty and staff by building relationships, but don't feel like you have to work against them. Because sometimes that could like end up hurting you more than anything else. But I think you all did a good job of that. I just always want to encourage that I don't do it enough. So so the way that Jared views initiatives, like specifically as he expressed to you all, is one way to see it. But at least in my opinion, this isn't my opinion as like a speaker, but as like another senator alongside you all. So that's like one way to see initiatives. But as long as you're working collaboratively with people outside of the Senate and like outside of the SGA, whether that be with another senator, and you're getting things done to be benefiting the campus and the students that are here, I think that's a good initiative. It doesn't have to be long term, as long as it's impacting you one way or another, and like, you know, you're getting some stuff done. So, at least moving forward, I know Brandon and I want to have you all out by hopefully like 7:30 at the latest. It's not including passing gavel, but that'd be like with guest speakers and things like that. So what comes with that though is that you all have more meetings outside of the meetings, and we're more willing to encourage some conversation to happen outside after the meeting.
So you like, I mean, that's exactly the stuff that we said at the beginning of the year.
What?
7:30 meetings.
That's with the guest speakers, not without them.
Okay.
So we do still have some confirmation penalty for Carly and Zane, my understanding, because they don't have everybody film. So we have to anticipate that, because that's something that we have to do as part of our job. And there are a few guest speakers that we're going to be getting into that are expected to come in. So other than that, yeah, meetings will try to be done, hopefully by 6:37 at the latest. But I just ask that, letting you know, even whenever we have busy meetings, please give me some grace and like try and get out here by 7:30. It's still really 2 hours.
So I get that, like trying to get out of 7:30, but like what does that look like? Do we have like a set out, like a planned out agenda, and then we like shift it based on like what we have? So are we gonna adopt a new agenda and then shift it based on the incoming events, or are we just gonna try? Like
it's more like capping conversations with like certain time amounts and being more strict about like cutting off those conversations because we don't have it enough. So for example, like shared governance, we have like 2 minutes to give an update, 5 minutes for like discussion, and then the Senate itself would take a straw poll vote, so you all have a voice. And whether the conversation ends is extended by 3 minutes or by 5 minutes. So nothing should last more than like 10 minutes.
Yeah, so I think that's good. But I feel like it's one thing to like say it's gonna happen, and then it's another to like actually write it down and try to like stick by like a time thing. Do you think we should like write down like not legislation, but like what is it called?
Template?
Yeah, it's template for procedural rules. It doesn't need to be like rigid, and like you don't need to like, it doesn't need to be like Robert rules, but something concrete that we could actually like look by instead of just like feeling the situation.
Jared,
Yeah, like I really like what Mary was saying. Like I think that we should really have a conversation about, well, not just a conversation, but basically create what Miriam's suggesting, this sort of template by have all the senators provide input as to like what exactly are the goals that we want to shoot for and how do we make that happen. You know, and then what are the self-restrictions that we're willing to put on ourselves to make that happen that we all agree upon. You know? Because like, I don't know, right now it sounds like you and Brandon talked about a lot of stuff, but I think it should be a much like bigger table-wide conversation.
Yeah, none of the stuff I'm talking about was anyone what we talked about on Friday. So
Okay.
just so you know. But
Okay.
yeah, we can make a template. I guess, can you all help me understand what that looks like? Because for me, the template is the agenda that you all approved at the beginning, and then like help me enforce the text. So like for me, that is the template. So help me understand more what you want then. Mary, do you want to? Well, Jordan, do you want to add to that before Mary?
Well, I thought Liam said she wanted to say something.
There's a lot of hands. Who wants to say stuff? Please raise your hands.
What's that?
I'm good.
Okay.
Hands up.
Okay.
So the template is basically what you just said, about like 5 minutes, whatever that may be, like whatever we consider like I guess a good flow for a meeting, and that sounded pretty solid to me. But my main concern is just like not sticking to it. So that sounds, what you said before, like 5 minutes for XYZ. That sounded coherent in my head. maybe we can start from there and then add or subtract time.
Maybe I could like do a timer so everybody can hear it instead of like each other calendar.
Yeah, so like what time is
Okay.
So like, can you like outline like what you said before?
Sure, yeah.
Essentially?
Did you want to say something before I go out and do that?
I was going to recommend that we make changes to our bylaws, just not just enforce that, if that's an issue that's going to go on consistently, it'd be one way to make sure that we saw it stay on, and also set a good way for the next Senate.
I think that's a good idea for like long term, but like we should do a test run sort of. Yeah. And not going to like change bylaws. Just yet.
So what I hear you saying is that you want more structure to your meetings, but then you also want to have input on what the structure is.
Yes.
So you want to do that now?
Well, I was going to outline here and ask you to clarify that.
I just like, I understand the idea of like structuring it better, and I support that. But I think also like trying to hold yourself accountable for that is important too. Like, not because I know sometimes it'll be like a discussion where it's like, oh, like we'll keep these short, but like we'll keep going sometimes. So I think as long as you can be accountable to yourself and saying like, I'm not gonna go too far over, and if I do, then the body is gonna hold me accountable. So like, oh, like it's probably time to wrap it up. I caution against setting like a strict exact time limit. I think once the time goes off, or how we just do like, we just make sure we wrap it up. Like we just say, okay, like now the time's off. Like if you have one more point, add it, and then we're done. Because that way, it's like I don't want to shut down productive conversation, but I think that as long as it's productive, it's good. If it's not productive, it needs to just be wrapped up.
Yeah, one thing me and Lily talked about when I met with her and Brandon was essentially, like let's say we're doing SGC updates, and we go through the updates and somebody has a discussion point that they want to discuss, and we basically say, okay, we want to do a discussion point, okay, 5 minutes for the discussion point, and then once it hits like 5 minutes, then we'll say, okay, we're going to end it here, or we can vote and say, and see how many senators want to continue the discussion, and people don't. That's fair. But,
do you still want me to go through that structure before we keep going?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, just so you all know, like from a procedural rule perspective, it is your like position to be checking me as the maker of the agenda. So whenever it's on a Saturday, and if you ever think this is like this takes too long or we shouldn't have this on the agenda, give that feedback so we can like have a conversation about it. But that's one way that we can like hold ourselves and be accountable. And so for example, like say SGC updates and initiative updates, right? Optimally, if you all want to start like letting me know whenever you have SGC updates before, I can put them into the agenda and give that specific amount of time. But say Patrick has an update and he's going to have up to 2 minutes to give his thing. Because for example, like Brandon's earlier with USC is really long, it's a lot of institutional information. But so you have like about 2 minutes, and then you have about like 3 to 5 minutes of discussion. So 5 of those, so that's about 7 minutes total. And then after that has happened, that's when you can ask questions, discuss. That person can ask questions to the group. The Senate then we'll just take a quick straw poll vote, and the 3 options are literally like, that's just straw poll votes are just in the air, like it's not formal voting. And it's just, do we want to extend this conversation by 3 minutes, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes?
Okay.
And whichever majority that goes is what happens, because kind of like enacting some like power of each senator and how conversations go. The straw poll vote shouldn't take too long, especially as we get it like ingrained in the body kind of. So
one thing, so I like that structure. One of that is kind of the structure to talk about, but I don't know if everybody else feels about that. So one thing I just want to make sure that it's not just like our structure that's being like controlled. So do you guys think, or do you guys want to do activity where we take these mini structures and we put them on the whiteboard and we go through each specific little component of it, and then people, or we just like knock out, or we just say in the comments that wants to change maybe this specific one, this one, this one, this one, down the list. Like, do you guys think that would be productive, or is there just general consensus that we want to do what we suggested in our group?
Yeah, it's up to you all. Just understand the whiteboard might take a little longer, since we're going to like break it down for that kind of thing. So if everybody's okay with that, I'm okay with that. Like, so do we want to go SGA Senate?
I didn't understand what it was. I didn't understand what was said. So you want to break it down? You want to just break it down, talk about it more?
Like for SGC updates. So Lily proposed the time like 2 minutes for updates.
Yeah.
And then like 3 to 5 minutes for discussion, and then for questions after that, right?
Yeah.
So the idea would just be to like say, all right, so update 2 minutes, put 2 minutes next to it. Discussion, put 5 minutes next to it, right? Questions, you put like 3 minutes next to it or something like that. And then we go down and say, is everybody okay with this time? Is everybody okay with this time? Is everybody okay with this time? Same deal.
Oh, you want to do that right now?
Well, it's like, as far as creating this template for how we want to go through meetings.
Oh, so it changes for every meeting.
Well, it would. The idea would be to create a structured template that we use when we do each aspect of our meeting. So if someone wants to give an SGC update and do like, this would be the times that you'd be limited to, barring extra, like.
So we're creating a general structure for our meeting right now.
Okay.
That's what he's proposing to make it look like, but with different input from everyone.
It's just a way that if people have concerns about it at the time, that they can voice it when they say, how do you feel about this time? How do you feel about this time? Right? But
I'm just hesitant to turn off projector because it never turns that on. It really doesn't turn that on, I promise you. So it's up to y'all.
We can just lift it up and just
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
like maybe a meeting that where people are just wasting time. I don't know.
Okay, one more time. Do you all want to break this out, or are you okay with us just doing breakdown and people give feedback as we talk about it?
That's what I'm just
Write it down.
Yeah, let's raise the screen, just like,
Yes.
Somebody raise the screen.
So now we got. Nice. Fast.
I got you over there. I can find a blank screen, I promise.
Oh, I had to go off.
Okay.
No, you're-
Buy something.
I'm out for one blank.
No.
We should get last year.
There we go. That works.
So.
There we go.
It's
This is
really
fine.
This is literally a lot.
That's fine.
It's fine.
The technologies was just not cooperating.
Well, like, I wish they didn't let you turn it on and off because it makes it really hard.
Yeah.
Like, every time I turn it off, it doesn't turn on.
Was it?
It's just like,
Can they didn't let you?
no, like, I don't know what they could turn it on, but once you turn it off, that's it, like, you're done.
Why? Why?
Can we move the monkeys on?
I think you know, it's best just to do that, just like.
I would say 5 max for this.
Don't just look like that. Wow. You know what? I'm never gonna do anything ever again.
And then questions, or then
Well,
concerns would be,
wait, I'm confused. So what I propose is questions is 5 max, and discussion could also be 5 max. Yeah. But that's isn't it.
That's fine.
oh, 5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Oh, I was like, that's it. 5.
Alright. Alright, concerns, so can you discuss / ask questions before the summary ends? Alright. So that would be like, so what I was thinking is just update summary. So is everyone okay with 2 minutes? Do you think this should be longer? Do you think it should be shorter?
I think that should be the most flexible one. I think that instead of like 2 to 3 minutes, kind of like for USC people, like that needs some time. But I think for question discussion, that should touch it further with sorry. Okay.
I think it should be like 5 minutes, and then depending on what like the length of the what's it called? Because I feel like 5 minutes is max, and others would fall under. So like most would fall under, but the people that need the time would have the time. That makes any sense.
concern being that people will not try to meet the 3-minute mark. You know, they're just gonna go slower.
We like don't read like every bullet point off their notes. Like, it should be coming with like a concise summary of like what we decided on. So it's also up to you all, like, if you want to extend it.
So, I think like, yeah, like basically what you said is fine, but then you should have like a one minute like leeway, like 1 minute buffer for each of the.
So that's something to say, maybe a 2-minute buffer where you cap at like, so you have like 2 minutes where you can spend whatever.
Since I'll be like doing the stopwatch, so okay, I'll just like monitor that and let you know whatever one is up.
Here's something that might be more fair. Okay, so why don't we try this? So everybody, does everybody kind of in their head have a time which they think it would be best to have the update summary? Like a number of minutes.
Is it more complicated with?
Well, I'd like up to 3.
I only have 3 as well.
Alright, so everybody in favor of 2, raise your hand. Okay, everybody in favor of 3, raise your hand. Alright, 3 days. Alright. Questions?
Now, remember, so we're hearing, like, say that person has that one like overtime. I just want everybody to understand what they're agreeing to, that 15 minutes per update, if we have 4 updates, that's a lot of time. Is everybody okay with that? You know, because if we're going to go forward with this, I have to make sure we're thinking about like more than one update. Is that okay? Okay.
What do you mean by more than one update?
So like if 4 different senators have updates and they're all allotted about 15 minutes, that's about 45 minutes of SGA updates.
Okay, so you're saying so for each update, for each shared governance committee, it would be 3 minutes for each committee, like.
So like this layout would apply to you and Patrick and Liam and me.
Oh yeah.
So I just want everybody to know it's like 15 per person, regardless of how many updates we have. So like today we had about 5, so we're going to take it up to 5, 6.
But I think the thing that you didn't though, and I think that's something like, because we're not always going to have huge like, discussion portions, much as we should, where I think that we can be flexible. Like I guess like that flexibility, I think it's a really good part of this.
But again, part of having that be shorter is the very fact that you're trying to force it shorter.
Yeah.
You know,
So, a common trend that I'm noticing, like just like for meetings in general, and like just how the discussion flows in Senate is that people have like opinions, right? And then like no one's really waiting to be called on. So I feel like we should be very strict about, you know, like being picked on before you talk, like having a roster, and like if you have a point that you want to make, for example, like Brandon had to say like I'm gonna wait, where I'm gonna take questions like at the end of my SGC, but we still interrupted to like discuss things, and that just made everything longer. So I think strictly letting the person finish their update, before we respond to what's it called, anything.
Yeah, I definitely do that.
So how do we renew people like don't explain themselves well enough, or you know, like
Right now.
Okay, sorry. I mean,
I did that just now. Sorry.
that's like the whole point question.
Yeah.
I mean, I generally try, and I need you all to raise your hands more though, because like I'm really taking out a list and I call it in that manner. But when people are just waiting to jump in, I can't do it with them. So help and all like monitor your time in the list. So yeah, I agree. So what is this?
So then, yes, you can't discuss or do questions before the update ends. And then for questions and discussion, so again, so Lily suggested like 5 minutes for discussion. When you did that, did you say anything about questions? When you did?
I think I was combining questions and discussion together.
Okay.
Because oftentimes like people were in them up at the same time. So Jordan.
Yeah, we can continue with this. I have another question about just SGC updates.
I think the person who's giving the update should have like basically like an agenda, like why are you telling the Senate that you're telling us the SGC update? So like that sort of like would guide the discussion. So it's sort of like I'm telling you this, here's why I'm telling you this, give me feedback, and then we could use that to guide the discussion time or question time. So like, I guess what I'm saying is like discussion happens before the actual questions. That's what I'm proposing.
Well, I mean, one thing about the questions is that these clarify the points of the summary that people didn't quite get. So the idea behind the question would be that if something wasn't clear, you could say ask or valid, right? And that's why I think with question, you can just pretty much put no cap on it. Because anybody get a question, like there might be 3 questions about something, and they might need a pretty quick answer. But if there's something that relates to a discussion, then you can just wait till the discussion section. This is more clarification.
So then, how would we? So then, how would we actually like? I guess guide this, like make sure that that's what happens. So would it be? So would it be that? Yeah. So yeah, this is we would do it.
We can help you all because like I don't like having to like cut you off or like be so direct. So help me help you.
Yeah.
Or we could do it like we do the confirmation was the question. Discussion.
Yes. So yeah. I would say that we should have like an I don't know, sort of like, is this a discussion point? Like realize that it's a discussion point after the person asks a question, and then like actually make note that we're going to address it in the discussion points. So who would be? So a scenario would be Leah was talking about her classroom committee. Classroom policy committee. If somebody had a question about like where's lecture 9, where's lecture hall, whatever, and then somebody said like, well, lecture hall 9 also needs like this and that and that and that done to it. We could note that for the discussion point, and then I don't know if it makes any sense, but I'm talking about the concrete like note of it, not just we're going to talk about this later, but then it ends up still being talked about during the question time. You know what I'm saying?
Are you clarifying? Okay.
So I'm hearing that you want the person giving the summary highlighting when something they're saying is something they want to be discussed.
Yes, not actually discussing it like during the question time, but like.
Well, I mean, the way it's going to work, like here, would be that there's no, I mean, you can't say anything until after they finish saying everything. That's what this question was here. Can you discuss the question before the summary ends? So, yeah.
No, that's different than what Miriam's saying.
Okay.
If I'm giving a USC update, I'm like, and this thing about Title IX, I want to be a discussion point, so I'm going to table that until then. I'm going to continue.
Okay.
So you're making your blatant.
I'm flagging my own summary.
Yeah, okay.
So you're saying like make the blatant points that you want to discuss in discussion.
Yeah, but also like if one of the questions that the person decides to ask is something that can be discussed and doesn't need to be like, or cannot be answered in like a short amount of time, we'll hold to discussion. That makes any sense.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, as we're going through it, just like help us along with that vision if you can. Jordan?
Yeah, I think that's my my thought about some of these. I think some of these discussions that we have during SGCs are going to be more than 5 minutes long. Like when we had like that classroom committee discussion, like about like the gym thing, like that's not just something you can do in 5 minutes. Consolidated.
Well, the idea would be to not have like long discussions. It would be that, well, like remember how with the gym thing you said like, can we just move on? So the idea would be once the discussion time ends, then we can all vote on whether or not we want to continue discussing. If not enough people want to continue, then we'll just move on. And we'll just die there, and people can discuss it outside the meeting.
Okay.
So can you write that down? No, like.
It's also kind of forcing people to like do less work in here and more out work like out there.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's good because I feel much more comfortable with like an informal session for some of this stuff. Just trying to like talk out instead of having like a live stream and like motion and things like that. Like just being able to kind of talk about it very normally outside with just the people you need to talk to about it with would be very important.
That's where it kind of feels like it goes back to like the highlight and like question point. Like those are things that you should bring up to the Senate. Is like your highlights and your questions. Like here's what I learned. Like here's also my questions and like what we should be asking for feedback for, feedback from you all, like that kind of flow. But also if we like upload our minutes in the drive, that'll help people like be able to go catch up too if we need to. Okay.
Okay, so it's like 7:30. Are we done?
Yeah, sure.
Are we done? Because I thought we were trying to like do this time thing. So.
I don't think we're done. I think. Yeah, I don't think we're done. Yeah, I don't think we're done. I think we're still, we still have time to, like, and this is sort of like going to basically like help us commit to the 7:30 later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I wonder how much progress could be made in smaller groups outside of the Senate meeting with you all leaving at 7:30 tonight. And in smaller groups, you work on different parts, and then you come back next week and you have that discussion, and then you're still out at 7. That way you start tonight, that you're getting out not at 9 o'clock. But that means that you're doing work outside of the Senate meeting, which, by the way, you all should be doing, but you know, if you're getting out at 7:30, you can catch up on homework, you can catch up on sleep, you can catch up on self-care. That way you can work with a better mind later on in the week. That's my 2 cents on that.
I honestly think that we should just get it done right now since we're already here. Like, I feel like this is like we should at least finish the whole template and like not make anything solid right now. Well, since we're already done, we need like what, 30 minutes more to finish it?
I think what do we have left to talk about, right? Like, other than this, I think this is like the biggest one that like we're talking about, like a time consumption thing. What else do we have to go into the template that like you were interested in going over?
Well, mostly just this, then setting time limits for initiative updates.
I think we should operate like this.
What do you say?
I think we should operate like this.
Me too.
Same way?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, one thing we could do is we could all bring back a paper or like our own breakdown of how we wish it would be, you know? And then we could compile, the next meeting we just pull them all into a pile and we just see what everybody wants. And then just base it off of that.
Okay.
The one concern I have, I go on with Ryan and saying, like, we're already here. I don't feel like very confident like starting off meetings unsure of the template of the meeting that we're going to be in. And I want to make sure that we at least have like a fit, like something to kind of go off of for next week. Like, even if we were to end it in like 10 minutes, I think that as long as we have something fairly structured for next week, because I don't want to come in and have to like recreate the wheel at 5:30, and you know what I'm saying, like again.
Yeah.
So I think let's finalize this kind of stuff up. Like let's iron out.
Just this one?
We'll just like let's make it like a tentative. Yeah, like this is perfect. I
don't think there's much else more than this.
Yeah.
I think like Mary with you. I think like, so I don't know what the meeting is going to look like next week. I don't normally get flow in from the rest of the Senate from the rest of the SGA or like outside people until about Friday.
Yeah.
Just so you know. So I don't know if it would help if I kind of like would walk you all through like what's going to happen. I don't know. Because I don't know about confirmations. I think we're also waiting for Julie to maybe come in like Recruiter Essentials kind of thing, because she asked to come in.
Okay.
Candace, did you?
So for SGC updates, shouldn't you know what those things are? Like everyone knows when their meetings are, right? So then if you know when your meetings are, you should know when you give an update. If you have a SGC meeting on a Thursday, you should be giving an update on the next Friday. And you all know when your meetings are, correct? So I'm just saying, Patrick, when is your next SGC meeting?
Thursday.
So you would be giving an update on Monday.
Yeah.
And you know when you will be having all of those meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So you should technically know when you're going to be giving updates.
But like we don't meet on Monday. We suggesting we should go.
No, I'm saying that it should be already determined who's giving what SGC updates from here until the end of the semester.
Yes.
On what Mondays.
I understand. Okay.
Right? So like,
yeah, you're right.
you should be able to map that out.
rest of the semester for this group. And then based on that, we should be able to schedule, like if there's a week where there's only 2 SGC updates, you could say, okay, this is a good week for Julia to come because there's only 2 SGC. If we have 5 SGC updates, that's not a great week to have a speaker.
That's awesome. Like that.
But so that means that y'all have to tell Lily when your SGCs are so that she can slate it ahead of time.
So,
And also I think before we leave the meeting we have to sort of like the whole like individual aspect of things and like what like holding us all accountable to these things during meetings. So sort of like what I brought up about people actually like sticking to the raising your hand before you speak type of thing, and like anything else that we think that we should commit to for the next meeting that we want to actually practice. So yeah, we should do that before we leave, but as to when we do that.
You can do that, yeah. Patrick, did you have a final thought on the
no, I'm not. Thank you. So.
So, on the agenda, like, what SGC updates have you put on?
Yeah. I think that's my opinion.
I mean, if you all know you have a meeting, and like you were to email me before Saturday, that would let me put that up there for all of you to see how many you'll have.
What we could do is alongside like SRCs, like so that like real quick like submit like if you know you have one because it's bi-weekly, like I'll know I have an SG or an SGC this Thursday and next Thursday, so like we have I guess SRCs do this Thursday.
Yeah.
So like I'll say like I have undirected council this Thursday, next Thursday, next some kind of format. Like, I don't know what I was saying. That probably take like up to like a week or two like to kind of figure out a format for us and like try and do that. But that might be an addition onto your SRC of like, oh, I showed senator section. This is what my SGCs are going to look like for this current week. And then you have that information, and you can just move that to Lily or however that
I
goes.
don't know if the SRC is a mechanism for that.
It's not, one is not, yeah, that's your
Yeah. So we don't review your specific reports until the end of the quarter, and we do all of them at the same time. So when you turn in your SRC, when you turn in your SRC report, the second review committee does not review that same week. They review all of the quarter's reports at the end of the quarter.
Okay.
So if you have a report, just shoot me a text or an email. That's really the easiest way. Cool. Cool. Consider cool.
There was an initial submission.
Okay.
So Brandon, we also have the list of like what the SGs are. So you could probably just, it might take like maybe an hour, but slapping that all onto like an SGC.
Well, I think you can make a form where all of you can do that because your SGCs do change. And I think like when they do change, Brandon and I can't foresee that because we aren't getting that correspondence. So if there's something that we can make where we all can just put our part, then it's less work collectively than it is on the board.
Yeah, I was just saying since
You can share your work kind of thing. Yeah.
We have an SGC document that outlines like all the points of contact and the descriptions and the meeting times. So if you want to edit your own meeting times. Yeah, so put in your days, times, locations. And that helps especially when you cannot make your SGC meetings and you can make sure that someone else can go in your place.
So are you saying that you have the information already to be able to pre-format your agendas?
No, Brandon's saying we have a master document.
Yeah, with meeting times.
We don't have the meetings. We don't have the meeting dates. We just have the contact info, right?
But you say you have meeting times.
For the ones that when I contacted each of the SGCs over the summer, I asked them for the meeting times for the semester, and if they were able to do it, they gave it to me.
Yeah.
If they were not, they should have pending under it. And so now you all have the points of contact for your own SGCs, so that you should be able to update that pending into the actual time. And then if someone needs to be like, oh, I can't go to libraries during whatever, then the person can check that document and be like, here it is, here I go.
Yeah. I think we can mean, maybe we can use the, you all have access to the senator office hour one. Do you just want to add your time to that one, and we'll just rename it Senate calendar, and we'll have the office hours and issues and meeting times?
Sure.
You already have a document.
It's not, it doesn't have the dates and stuff.
It has a thing that says FA 2018 meeting times and locations.
So it doesn't have that.
So then have people update. It has to.
So as a recap, what are we doing? We are
Yeah. Just for this?
just in general. So like as a
Following
follow.
this template.
So we're gonna follow the template. Now we're going to update our the SGC sheet with
Our dates, times, location, make sure they're accurate. We'll be adhering to like a timer-based system for conversations to help people like hear when their time is up instead of just think it is. You all should be letting me know either through text or email or Slack that you have an update that you want to give on a Monday. Slack is like my least preferred way just because it doesn't always hit my phone. But if that's your other way, you have to go for it. There is something that I needed to address with you all. Initiatives. I know you all are like a little lost. One thing that Jared had brought up, and like this is how I've always done it as a senator. This isn't how you have to do it. But a good way to find an initiative is like make a list of everything you're dissatisfied with on campus, or just things that you think like need to do better and be better. And it's kind of like narrow down what you think can be solved, and talk with people. Feel free to work with people, but I don't want you all. We're kind of going to a hybrid version. If you want to adhere to groups, you can stick in your groups. But if you want to branch off and do something by yourself, you're more than welcome to do that as well. I know I'm definitely here. Do you have a mission experience? A mission experience? Okay. Brandon and I are here for you if you want to make meetings with us, like talk through what this looks like, and we can help you like find like stakeholders that you can go like meet with, or just shoot us an email. But just like making that clear, it's your responsibility to be doing that outside the meeting. We're not going to be taking any more meeting time to like brainstorm initiatives. So yeah. This is the sheet Candace is talking about. Great. Other than that, does anybody have any other questions on Mario?
Yeah, I have an idea actually.
Sure.
I feel like it'd be really cool if like to kind of like keep the spirit up of like meeting outside of like the SGA meetings. If like before passing gavel, like after meeting here, like 5 minutes, like just have like time to like get out our calendars and like kind of like set times to meet with each other. I think that'd be really helpful because like for me, like it's Monday, then I kind of plan out the rest of my week and have like meeting times with people so we can like talk about stuff we want to do and not wait till Friday or like the next one and be like, oh, I forgot about that. So I feel like if we had like set times, or if we like just like had time like after our meeting to like just like get on each other's calendars, I think that'd really, really help.
After passing gavel?
Before passing gavel, before or after, doesn't matter.
Yeah, to echo that point, because I feel like there's always like a lot of like ideas and like a lot of talking, and then we never really follow up on things, and then like later on, like 2 meetings later, we're just like, oh, but did people update their SGC things like they were supposed to? There's not really a follow-up. So I feel like there needs to be a better follow-up thing, and maybe that's a good way of doing that. Actually like having things noted and put it on people's calendars.
Can I comment on it?
Mm-hmm.
Would it be alright if it was after passing gavel so that people that like do plan aren't like kind of like penalized and have to stay in the meeting longer, since we're like the entire conversation is about like efficiency of time and stuff like that?
Cool. So
I don't know, like if like for people that like are hardcore planners or they plan at different times other than Monday, for them if they don't have anything to be doing, they're just gonna be like sitting, and I don't want people to feel like again they're not doing anything in meetings. Does that make sense? Like I don't want it to be a furtherment of what we're literally just talking about.
Okay.
So I don't know if after passing out, that way people are free to leave if they want to and stay if they want.
Sure.
Is that okay?
I mean,
just like,
yeah,
is
but
it a good way to spend the meeting time?
I think it is to plan to meet outside the meeting. I think it's a good. I think it's a good time to like spend, because we're senators, right? We're supposed to meet outside of the meetings, so like outside of this, so that's why I'm thinking, yeah.
So I agree that it doesn't really actually matter to me, but if we had to choose, I would say like after the meeting time, because of the same thing that you're talking about, but we're still going to be doing something productive if we did it within the meeting. Like people could be like everyone needs a follow up. This doesn't even, yeah, it doesn't. I don't think it matters when we have it.
Raise your hand if it matters. Who wants to be doing the other part? You want to do everything, or does it? You prefer after? Who wants it after Pascal, or who wants it before? I'm not going to make the ultimate decision. So.
What is it?
So for planning time to like plan for meetings outside of Senate or like follow-ups or documents and stuff.
Yeah.
Before the meeting is one option. After, so before passing gavel, after passing gavel. Before passing gavel, raise your hands. After passing gavel. And it's tied.
It was, wow. No, that's, I mean,
Eight and Jazz in here.
Is it relevant to this meeting?
My thought process is that setting up meetings is something that all of us should be doing outside of Senate meetings because it's not really Senate work, that's individual work in my opinion. But like if you all want that time, we can give it. I just don't want like, people to be frustrated again because we're not all doing something.
Sort of like speaking to Jordan's point, and like the point of like the time that we're talking about like following up is essentially like to plan work outside of the meeting. So I think it's just it's essential for everyone to know what's happening outside of the meetings, regardless of whether or not they're taking part in it. So like it's just it's basically like a summary of the whole thing. So I think it wouldn't hurt to have it in the meeting, but if it really like if 2 minutes or 5 minutes really bothers people, I guess we could do it after passing out. With that being said, we should just go with it. Hopefully somebody change their mind.
Before passing out, raise your hand.
Oh, before?
After passing out, raise your hand. There is no change. Great.
So
fantastic. You're voting? Yes.
Like considering we don't have
Yes.
initiatives right now, is this relevant to this meeting?
What do you mean? Is it relevant? Sorry, I'm
This
not.
conversation.
I think it is just, like I said, to make sure you have a framework for the next meeting. I think that, although like, now we're kind of starting to get like, okay, like,
Yeah.
now it's getting a little circular, that's fine, like, I think that, as long as we have the stuff for the next meeting, but I do understand Jared's point, like, we don't really have the initiatives yet. So like, while this is an important part, I think that, like, by like next meeting, we make sure we have like.
I hope by next meeting you all at least have an idea of where you're going
Yeah,
initiative-wise.
I think that, let's really take a look at this stuff.
Let's just bring Yaz into this next time. Is that okay with everybody, so she has a decision too?
That's fine.
Okay, cool. So we'll talk about this next time. So anybody have any announcements? I'll ask for volunteers to input data for an election to show against them.
My ask is, if you guys can help, I'm gonna put out a survey soon, if you could spread it out to other people about student huddle spaces. Classroom committee, I kind of forgot to mention the time because I was trying to consolidate, but they kind of wanted an idea from the undergraduates on like what you want from a student huddle space, how many people would fit there, what kind of outlets do you want USB chargers, like screens, like that kind of stuff. Just basically, if you had like this space of like the library rooms and stuff, what would you want to see there?
So you need help creating a survey?
I'm gonna create a survey, I need your help.
Oh, okay.
And I'll give it to comp as well, but I want to get it to as quickly as possible, so.
Like an online form.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Other announcements? Alright, any last final word points before the elections are up? Okay.
So for the next meeting, like I brought up before, so what are some things that we want to I guess like hold ourselves to for next meeting, like strictly hold ourselves to, not just talk about it, but actually do for next meeting. One thing that I brought up was to actually raise your hand before you're called on and not speak out of turn.
I love you guys. I can type these
Oh. But yeah, I do that too. It's not, yeah. No, yeah.
So like Mayor, I'm hearing you want to make like kind of like guidelines and like just like what we're all gonna like hold ourselves accountable.
Yeah.
Okay. Other things? how are you all gonna hold yourself more accountable for conversation, right?
In terms of accountability in Senate, not exactly in the conversation right now, but I think that looking over the minutes is a struggle. So I think it'd be important for anyone giving their SGC update to look over the minutes of that SGC update to make sure whoever's taking the minutes did it accurately. People sharing that information really best to know. That makes sense.
So sort of like to ensure that that's happening, we should see your name highlighted when we're reviewing the minutes the next, or you should like make note that you overlooked it for the next meeting. So then if you haven't, you could check it.
I'm not familiar.
So what's going to look like is I gave a USC update.
Yes.
I'm gonna, after this meeting's over, I'm gonna go through the meeting minutes, look for my update, and then I'm either going to make the changes that need to be made, or I'm gonna highlight it in a column being like, I checked it and it's fine.
Got it. Okay. So by Monday, so Saturday to Monday. Yeah.
I'll be transparent, this sounds to me like a Google Doc. Like, create a Google Doc, everybody has access to it, you put in your ideas. And the things you want to hold each other accountable for. You can make comments on them. That's what it sounds like to me. Because I'm reading the room, there is frustration in this room about where we are right now, or where we are right now. Tell me if I'm wrong about that.
Is everybody agree with that? Google Doc? We all contribute?
Google Doc for the stuff that we want to hold ourselves accountable to. Like, did you mean like we shouldn't be doing this now? We should be doing this in Google Doc. That's what you were referring to.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
What if we did that and we can like talk about it and finalize on Monday?
Yeah.
Sure. Because that way you guys can give everything.
Sure. I feel like the only thing about like a Google Doc, like the only reason why I'm hesitant to like, maybe this is just me in general, but like I don't like following up with things. I feel like it's a lot harder like outside of meetings. That's why like getting it done in the moment is like really important to me. But maybe that's just a me thing. Yeah.
I understand that definitely. I definitely should have done it myself, but like, and I just an important part of like being able to grow on the Senate is like trying to do things. Like, right, you are a senator, right? I struggle with that, but like I'm trying to make sure like because of me having short meetings that I know, like, what else probably like I'm accountable myself, to make sure that I'm being the best that I can be in this space and also like outside of this. So just like for everyone else to do that challenge that, but like if we are going to control it, it's just I think vital to like stay in strong Senate and make sure that we ourselves accountable to our time outside Senate as well, to make sure that we are still being things like being strong Senate. So.
Yeah, kind of goes back to like short meeting there's equal more work outside meeting.
Yeah.
Like, so we don't want to do more work, we do more work here. So we should find the balance. But I think we should wrap this up because everybody gets better. So everybody okay with that? That's great. Any last final announcements? Great. So I adjourn this meeting at 7:53. And thank you for taking minutes.
It's a lot of it was rushed.